Hello, everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in, listening, watching. Justin Stivers, another episode of the Stivers Show. Very excited about my guest today. Normally looking shaggy like me with long hair, but looking a little bit more professional today. Patrick Montoya. Patrick, what's going on, brother?
I didn't realize you'd be cutting a live track this afternoon.
I
Pretty good
know.
with the BJ headphones. You get your Beatles background. It looks great.
I
Some
know.
of us are here working, but I know you're busy DJing
I'm
somewhere. What are
just
you
DJing,
in?
man. This is my second gig. I just don't get paid for it. No, man. Excited to
Thanks
have
for
you
having
on.
me. I appreciate it.
No,
Thank you.
appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. And so obviously we've known for a little while, each other for a little while. Both pretty terrible golfers, but we're getting a little bit better. Hopefully, hopefully,
A little bit.
just a little bit. But no, I'm excited to have you on because you partner at very respectable firm, Coulson Hicks in Coral Gables, Florida, and you've got. I know we were talking a little bit before we started filming, a unique practice where you do a lot of personal injury, but you do some commercial stuff, and we'll dive into all of that. But maybe where to start, I'd just like to ask you, who are you and what do you do?
My name is Patrick Montoya. I'm a trial lawyer at Coulson Hicks, and I've been here just over 20 years. I've tried several dozen cases to verdict with several multi-million-dollar verdicts. I've worked on large class action settlements, including the Menora Gardens Jewish Cemetery litigation for folks that were here in Miami and nationally in the early 2000s, to Chinese drywall, to the BP oil spill, but also handle a lot of cases for individuals as well that are injured or harmed. Some of the verdicts that you may have seen where there was two Chinese nationals that were ran over and tragically killed a few years ago, back from crossing the street at UM and in Pinecrest. That case made the headlines. But I also have a pretty large commercial practice as well. I represent a lot of doctors in suing insurance companies for non-payment of their professional fees. So I kind of split both divides. I do some medical negligence work as well, but I also collect on behalf of doctors. And on the commercial side, I also do quite a bit of construction defect work that kind of dovetailed when I got into Chinese drywall and I learned the construction defect field. So probably the largest case in my office right now is about a $50 to $70 million construction defect class action at the Latitude on the River condominium in downtown Miami for the replacement and repair of their fire sprinkler system that's in a 42-story building. So it's a major project and a major case that's set for trial in May. So yeah, I do have some breadth there, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, what people call standard personal injury, but nothing's really standard anymore. Even, everybody thinks an auto case is easy to do, but auto litigation is difficult. Uber, Lyft. So I see a little bit of everything in this practice.
Have you been at Coulson Hicks since out of practice since graduating, or?
I have. I spent 6 months doing labor and employment law at Morgan & Lewis in Miami, which was then a satellite office of a large 1,200 lawyer firm. And I was defending the Disneys of the world and the American Airlines and employment discrimination work. And what I quickly realized was, depending upon who's watching this, that employment law is very corporation friendly and employer friendly. And what that means for lawyers is a lot of cases are dealt with on summary judgment without getting to a jury. So I wasn't seeing juries. I wasn't seeing the inside of a courtroom. And at one point I was 6 or 7 months into my career, hadn't seen the inside of a courtroom, and actually volunteered to go file something back. We could file something with paper with the court so I could go see the federal courthouse because I hadn't seen a courtroom. And I realized this isn't for me. I need to be around people, and I want to try cases. So I jumped to Coulson Hicks, and actually my first case was the Menora Gardens, the Jewish cemetery litigation that resulted in a $100 million settlement and the reform of 2 cemeteries with over 40,000 burials in them. So, I got off to a very, very interesting start on a huge case, and I'm blessed because of it.
Did you kind of always know you wanted to be an attorney, or what got you in thinking to go into law school?
I really wanted to be in politics. I wanted to run for office. I did my thesis in political science at Davidson College. I was working towards my major, and at that time, the Art Thiel, Alex Pinellas race was going on for Miami-Dade County Mayor, which was the first time there was a strong mayor election in Dade. And I studied the the racial coding in Spanish language radio, because it was African American versus a Cuban American. And I became very cynical very quickly about what was happening in that race. If you don't know the story, after Pinellas won, and several years after that, Mr. Teal tragically shot and killed himself in the lobby of the Miami Herald in public, in part as a result of what had happened in that election. So I became very, very disenchanted with politics. And I realized that I didn't want to sell out. I didn't want to compromise my values, my beliefs. And I realized as a lawyer, particularly as a trial lawyer, I don't have to do that. All I have to do is go in there and fight for the client that I believe. It's their one at bat, their one swing at bat. And if I don't want to compromise and the client doesn't want to compromise, I go for it. And I may lose, I may win, but I also tapped into my sports background and my arts background. I grew up playing football, played football all through high school and college. And then I spent a year with a postgraduate fellowship doing dance. So to me, trial law is the combination of all of those fields. It's obviously the practice and the discipline of sports and dance in particular. What I was doing, it's practice, 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 practice. 80 to 90% of your time you're practicing and polishing and working and grinding. And then the football game or the show is like that 10% where you get to sparkle and you get to show off all the work you've done. That's trial. And then it's also, there's obviously some theater to trial, obviously some dramatics to trial, and that all kind of blends in. And then it's just the competitive aspect. I'm a competitor. And the civil trial system is an adversarial system. So we fight within the rules, just like in a football game. You're going at it within the rules. You're going at it fairly, but you're fighting your tail off. So that aspect of it I really like, and that's allowed me to stay interested and stay motivated, because it's always a fight.
Yeah, and so what's kind of interesting also is I mean, I think a lot of people watching probably know about your Coulson Hicks, but it's kind of in my opinion, kind of a unique. It's a bigger firm that does personal injury and commercial, whereas a lot of personal injury firms, for the most part, tend to be solo or a couple of partners. Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah, we're a bit of an outlier. The term, I think, boutique litigation firm is used. Some people said, blue blood personal injury firm. We've got a very deep bench here. We've got formal, Southern District U.S. Attorney General down here. We do a lot of white collar criminal defense work. We're deeply involved in the Cuba cases right now, trying to make recoveries for the former owners of the Havana docks, where NCL, Carnival Cruise Lines, et cetera, all dock in Cuba. But those docks, that port was owned by Cubans at that time, that property was taken from them. So we are litigating those cases actively against Carnival, for example, as in terms of the breadth of what we do. That most law firms or most personal injury firms will not see that type of work. The class action work that I do, particularly on behalf of the doctors that I sue for against health insurance carriers, you're not going to see that in a personal injury firm. So yeah, we're also heavily into the MDL, the multi-district litigation and class action world. So that aspect of it is unique. We're kind of a hybrid in that respect. So yeah, I think we do have a unique practice.
And I know a lot of the cases, you get, it's because you brought them in, right? You do a lot, you're very active. I know with the MDTLA, Dade County Bar, bunch of different organizations and stuff. Was that out of necessity or just kind of instinctively, intuitively, you thought, hey, I need to build my book of business? Because I think a lot of, depending on what type of firm you're at, a lot of, associates, they don't think about that. They're just like, the work kind of comes to them and it's like, hey, so long as there's work, there's good. But was that for you out of necessity? And I guess, has that worked for you, working at a bigger firm like that?
Yeah, I was taught that the best way to market yourself was threefold. One, you get great results. What people pay attention to is verdicts, big settlements, and headlines. So your results speak for you. You can be the friendliest person at a bar function or a party, and people really like you. But if they know the lady next to you or the guy next to you can try a case and get a better result and get them a higher referral fee, they're going to go to that lawyer, whether they like you or not. The liking you is good. The being out at the bar function is important, and being social is very important, but the results are number one. The second thing I was taught was to do scholarship. In other words, write bar journal articles, lecture. I lecture widely. I try to lecture, once every couple of months to keep myself sharp, but also as a way of marketing. People understand that you then become an expert in that area. They get to see you on your feet. They get to learn from you. And if they're actually able to take something back and use it in their practice, then you become that go-to person. So that's number two. The third element is to volunteer and be on boards and voluntary bar organizations. But the rule I was given, I think, was very important. Try and take only one leadership position in these bar organizations. It's important. You can belong to all of them and go to the meetings and go to the functions, but try and just take one leadership position, because with our schedules and with our time, if you overcommit, and you don't perform, then people start to think, well, geez, that's just a guy who wants that on his resume and wants to be up front, as opposed to doing a great job for one organization and running with that, as opposed to being spread out among a bunch. I'm a member of a lot of organizations. I love going to the meetings, but I actually violated my own rule at one point. Was on the board for the AHA, the American Association of Justice, on the nationwide basis, and also on the local trial lawyers board. So I resigned from the national organization because, frankly, what I found was I'd been doing so many national cases for the last 4 to 5 years, especially in New Orleans and other parts of the country, that I wasn't getting to know my local trial lawyers, my local lawyers here. I just wasn't seeing as much of them. So I've kind of put the national side. I've touched in that area, and people know me nationally, but people really didn't know me as well, I think, in my own backyard. So I've gone more to that, and frankly, I've enjoyed it. We've got a very deep pool of legal talent in Miami. So it's been a pleasure serving on that board.
Is there a couple that you feel like have maybe been the most rewarding professionally, personally?
In terms of
yeah, in terms of organizations and your networking and all of, what's, I guess, kind of been the most, rewarding for you?
Yeah, I think it's probably been the Miami-Dade trial lawyers. I think we've done a very good job with judicial outreach, making sure that, lunches with the judges or dinners with the judges that are in a very much more intimate setting than going to a function with 300 people. I find in particular, look, marketing is difficult. Being at bar functions at a cocktail party with 60 lawyers and there's 8 judges and everybody's crowded around the judge, and you can't get your face in there and get to say hello or get to meet them or get to meet other lawyers. That's a very difficult environment. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with it. And, obviously what we're doing today, the Zoom part, is a completely new aspect of it, and another adjustment. But yeah, I think that organization in particular, because you can go to events and do things where it's on a little bit of a smaller scale, because it can be very intimidating, especially for young lawyers, when you walk into a room and you don't know anybody and you end up on the outside edge of that room, walking around the outer part, not getting in and engaging. And I've made it a point, because I remember what that was like when I see somebody, I try to do, so I see somebody walking around the edge, not engaging in the conversation. Those are the people I go to talk to, because I remember what that's like. And I know what it's like. It still happens to me today. I go to places and, the worst feeling is feeling alone in a crowded room. You're in a room full of people, but you feel alone because you're not talking to anybody. It's a bad feeling. So I tend to seek those people out, because I just know what that feels like.
Take a fake phone call to excuse yourself from the conversation you're not having with anyone.
There's always that. But with, like, the best icebreaker, I know it sounds corny, is, "Hi, how you doing? My name's Patrick Montoya. Nice to meet you." That actually works.
Yeah, it does.
Hello,
it does.
Hello is amazing. Yeah.
Well, so shifting a little bit, because obviously, you're a trial attorney, and what you said, Zoom, all of that's different. Jury trials, not the same. But I know we were kind of talking, and so what's kind of the status of that? Have you kind of kept your finger on the pulse as far as have jury trials resumed? What's the future of that, look like? I guess probably best Miami-Dade, but maybe the tri-counties, yeah.
The good news is, through the efforts in particular, the 11th Circuit, Judge Soda's our chief judge right now. Judge Safety was just appointed. She takes over in March, I believe. and Judge Bailey, who's head of the civil division. They've been working very hard on the statewide task force that they were all appointed to, but also locally with the ABOTA chapter down here, the American Board of Trial Advocates. They've been working, the judges have been working together with ABOTA, and the courts have their own epidemiologists, pulmonologists, and doctors that they've consulted with on how to conduct safe trials. The short version of all this is we expect to go back to civil jury trials as of March 1st. It will be very limited in the civil courthouse, I believe, to 4 courtrooms, as opposed to the whole building. Frankly, there's just logistical problems in that building. It's an old building, as you probably know and others know. The construction of the new building, basically across the street, was approved about a year ago. Getting people up and down on elevators for a trial could take about a half an hour. You're going 2 by 2 like Noah's Ark. And for the case was set to try last May, which has now just been scheduled for this May, I've got close to 25 lawyers in the case, almost 30 lawyers. It'll take us 20 minutes to get the lawyers up and down the elevator. Forget the jurors. So we are actually looking at alternative sites, offsite, to try the case. So, and I think that's going to happen. A hotel ballroom is probably what we'll end up with. Frankly, the air exchange rate there, the filters are better than what's in the existing courthouse. It's 1 level, so I don't have to worry about elevators. I will have better Wi-Fi in that building. It'll make it more convenient for jurors. And look, our number one concern is the safety of the jurors. Can I keep them distanced, and can I keep them safe?
Yeah. And so you think next month, when do they have plans for offsite locations yet? Or is that just kind of talks have begun?
Right now, I'm kind of an outlier in that because the size of my trials, the number of people, is a problem. The biggest courtroom in the Dade County Courthouse can have 37 people in it, socially distanced. I anticipate 55 to 60 people at my trial. So I've got to go off campus, in other words. I think smaller cases will be able to start March 1st. My understanding is the first case that's supposed to be up may be a tobacco trial, which those tend to be large too. So I'm sure it'll bump right up against that number 37, but the judges they're working hard at it. I mean, they're actually, for public access, they're going to have to either broadcast it on YouTube or do a live stream of the trial to make sure that the public can attend. So there's a lot of considerations, and putting aside, constitutional concerns. What's my jury going to look like? Are they all going to be under 65? Can they concentrate on the trial in terms of having, fears of getting COVID? Who's showing up? Who's not going to show up? How many alternate jurors do I need? These are all things we haven't faced before, but they're studying across the country.
Yeah, that sounds like a nightmare. that sounds very difficult.
It is, but it is literally the question of our times as lawyers, as trial lawyers. I mean, obviously it's important to my clients who are, obviously looking for justice. I've got folks that, on the injury cases that are over 65 that have a right to a fast trial under the Florida statutes. They need to get their case tried. And we can't just stop. We have to do something. We have to find a better way or an alternative way. We're not even talking about the criminal side. I mean, part of all this too is at some point we think the civil judges may end up being criminal court judges for a little while to deal with this backlog. The backlog is going to be unbelievable because you've had a backlog of cases that should have been tried for a year. You've got cases that have been filed in the interim. We all anticipate there's going to be a massive foreclosures at some point. So the system is quickly going to be flooded. And I remember what it was like practicing through 2 waves of foreclosure crises in the 20 years that I've been doing this, where you have state court judges that have a caseload of 6, 7, 8,000 cases at a time. That's coming again.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Well, we'll have you back on when it's the end of the world, and hopefully things get better. But I want to leave.
Will be sitting next to me, so
yeah. Well, I want to leave on positive note though. But so again, I know you've touched on, and I think a lot of things you said, would be very useful for younger associates or people maybe wanting to do their own thing, focus on building their practice. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for maybe someone who's, wanting to do their own thing, looking to build their own business, start their own thing, or, maybe not start their own firm, but someone like you who, found a really good fit for themselves and just found a way to really, flourish within the firm itself?
Well, there's a lot of things I can say. I think number one though is faith in yourself. Is you got to believe in you. You can't be pie in the sky and be unrealistic, but you have to believe in you and in what you're doing. And it is a dogged pursuit. You have to be determined. You can't give up. You have to keep pushing. And I think what's so new now and what should give people hope is, look, 25, 30 years ago, you couldn't market yourself like you can do now. I mean, look at you, you've got your own channel and you're putting your own show out there. It used to have to be, well, had to be number one or number three in my class at Yale or Harvard or Columbia to get any attention. No, you have ways of getting attention right now. And you know what? The public is going to look at your background. They're going to look at your resume. They're going to look at your pedigree, but you can sell you right now. You could sell you directly. I mean, we learn no greater example. You can hate Trump. You can love Trump. You could be somewhere in the middle, but he connected with people. He was a marketing genius directly to people. There's a lesson to be taken from that in terms of lawyers, I think, and what we can do and what we're capable of in terms of marketing. There's no reason that you have to be necessarily at a top 100 or top 20 firm to be successful in this field, because you can market now, I mean, within our bar rules, obviously, to people directly. So there's so much more opportunity there. I mean, in my practice in particular, I'm probably close to 80% referral. We don't really do any direct advertising. We're not on TV. Most of our stuff is word of mouth and results. And there's, the flip side of all this direct marketing is the competition is massive. So my advice to people, especially in my field that want to do personal injury, products liability type work, is market outside of your world, market outside of trial lawyers. I like to talk to my colleagues in the family law world and the immigration world, because I'm not competing with them and I can send them work. Find a relationship there where you can benefit one another. It can't just be one-sided. So think creatively that way. And I go on and on, but I think you have to be confident. I think you have to believe in yourself, not give up, put that image of you out there. That is you, that is genuine. I mean, we know who Justin is on air. We know he's that guy with the beard and the DJ
Needs a haircut.
That can do your estate planning, can do your wills, can do your probate, and is going to fight for you, right? And that's who you are. There's no faking that. It's direct, and there's like, embrace that and run with it is what I would say.
Awesome, man. I think that's phenomenal advice. Well, sir, if anybody wants to, work with you, learn more from you, refer you cases, what's kind of the best way? And we'll put it in show notes as well. But is there any place you want to direct people?
That'd be great. Our firm website, my profile is there. It's www.coulson.com, spelled just like that sign behind me if I'm doing my imaging right with the mirror. The office number is 305-476-7400, and really easy email address. It's Patrick, my first name, @Coulson.com. So yeah, feel free to call. I also, one thing I did too, like I said, if there's younger folks watching, I mentor a lot of young lawyers. I do enjoy it. I think there's a lot of benefit because I benefited from great mentorship, and I do want to pass that on. So I would encourage them to reach out.
Awesome, brother. Appreciate it, man. See you on the golf course, sir. Thank you for your time.
Justin, I appreciate it.
Take care, man. Bye.